Today I have a video for you breaking down the best school districts and your best school choices in the Colorado Springs area. And I'm going to give that to you right up front, but I do hope you watch the rest of the video because as I was making this video, I found some information that I was pretty shocked to see. And I'm going to share all that with you along with links to the resource materials in the comment section below. So without any more delay, let's get into the best school options available to you if you're putting your kids in school in Colorado Springs. Let's get this right out of the way up front. District 12 is the top district in the state. It's on the southwest side of Colorado Springs. And the other two districts that are the best in Colorado Springs are top 10 in the state. And that's District 38, which is in Monument, and District 20, which is on the north side of Colorado Springs. School District 12 and 38 are smaller districts, and School District 20 is a huge district. Again, top 10 in the state, and School District 12 is the top in the state. Congrats to those guys. They're above what other school districts are. But what I did was I took the test results from 2022, the most recent year available, and I compared them to 2013, and what I found was just shocking. And I'll share all that with you. The test scores have fallen pretty drastically. And the statistic I saw that really kind of grabbed me was that 40% of our kids are reading and writing at or above their grade level in Colorado. 40%. 60% of our kids are below grade level in English. So let's break these numbers down a little bit. Before I dig into the numbers, I do want to say I'm a longtime real estate agent in the Colorado Springs area. I'm hoping that this video gets enough exposure that other people moving to Colorado Springs find it and it helps them make a better choice about where they want to send their kids. So if you could give this video a like or maybe subscribe, please do that. It helps a just tremendous amount. And I put my contact information below. So if you are looking to make a move and you appreciate somebody willing to stick their neck out a little bit, I would appreciate it if you'd reach out to me. I have a lot more information about the Colorado Springs area that I'm willing to share. And if this video is popular, then I'll keep doing that. I can do property tours if that's what people want, and I'm happy to do it. But sometimes it just feels like I have a little bit more to say, and that's the purpose of this video. If you're still watching this video, I'm going to assume you're a parent who cares greatly about their kids' academic performance. You want them to thrive and do well, and you believe that the school that they are in plays a big part in that because it does. And a lot of what I found in terms of information on school districts in the Colorado Springs area is just a regurgitation of what you'll find on Great Schools or niche.com. And I don't want to do that. So what I have for you is the most recent test scores from the state of Colorado in 2022. And I'm comparing that with test data from 2013. So 10 years ago, we'll look at the data and compare a couple of numbers that really stood out to me. I don't want to get into everything wrong with school districts. That list is really long and it's not really the purpose of this video. I don't want to get into a debate about why things are the way they are. I just want to report what I found. And before I dig into that, I do want to say that Colorado Springs is a school choice area. So you can live in one school district, which maybe is underperforming, and opt your children into a better school district that might be just across the road or on the other side of town. As long as they have room available, you can transfer your students in there. It's not a guarantee, but it is an option that's available, and you should know that because you might live in one of these areas where a school district is on a performance plan and you don't want your kids to go to that school. You can opt them into a different school. In addition to the public school testing info, I'm going to share a little bit with you about charter schools. And I want you to know in Colorado, charter schools are generally seen as a positive. I've had clients move here from outside of Colorado and they tell me that in their state, charter schools are kind of a place where kids go because they don't fit into a regular school, or maybe academically they're just not on par. And that's not the case in Colorado. Some of the best schools in Colorado are charter schools, and I'll tell you what those are. So if somebody wants to accuse me of cherry picking data, they certainly can. That's probably some validity there. I'm not here to pick a fight with them. What I do want to say is I looked at a middle school in Fountain School District 8. That's where most of our Army soldiers send their kids to go to school. So there was a middle school there that tested almost 200 kids, and just over 8% of them tested at or above their level in math. This isn't calculus, this is 7th grade math. And over 91% of these kids are failing at math. And I'm like, well, let's compare that. So I looked at the 2013 numbers, and 52% of the kids in that exact same middle school were at or above the grade level in math. So we've gone from 52%, which isn't great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that's a great number, but from 52% to 8%. And I just had to peel back that onion a little bit more and find more information because I was just stunned when I saw that. You may be asking yourself where I got this information. I pulled it from the Department of Education's website for the state of Colorado. It's called our CMAS test, and it stands for Colorado Measures of Academic Success. I have a link to it in the comments section. It's an Excel spreadsheet. You can search by district. You can search by individual school. It's across the whole state. So if you're looking somewhere in addition to Colorado Springs, I put that information in there as well. And if you love Excel, you'll love this spreadsheet, and it'll probably be as eye-opening for you as it is for me. What's on your screen right now is a paragraph from a breakdown of these test scores. And this is the most encouraging information that they could gather from these test scores, because the paragraph after this one says less encouraging, meaning this first paragraph is more encouraging. And that's the number I shared at the beginning of this video, that only 41% of our third graders are proficient or advanced in English, meaning almost 60% of our kids in third grade in Colorado can't read and write at the grade level they're supposed to be reading and writing. And that just, man, that broke my heart. 41% of our third graders reading and writing at their grade level is the encouraging part. Almost 60% are not, and that's the encouraging part. To give you a little bit better idea of why I'm so frustrated looking at these scores, I pulled the test scores for third graders in 2013, and 72% of them were proficient or advanced in English. So we went from 72% proficient, which wasn't great anyway, 72% proficient to 41% proficient. And that's the encouraging part. Let's get into the discouraging part. Less encouraging were results for older students. Just a quarter of 7th graders met or exceeded expectations in math, compared to 31.6% in 2019. And less than a third of 8th graders met benchmarks in math, compared to almost 37% in 2019. Only 25% of 7th graders in Colorado are at or above their grade level in math. And in 2013, that number was 55%. Again, not great, but it wasn't 25%. 3/4 of all 7th graders in the state of Colorado are below grade level in math. And it wasn't because of shutdowns. Those shutdowns were in 2020. These scores were bad in 2019. So we're looking at something different here. So what options do you have when you're looking for a school for your kids in Colorado Springs? The first one's a little bit polarizing for some folks, and I understand that, and that's homeschooling. If you're one of those people that are like, I can't homeschool, no way, I get it. But if you're interested in it and you think you'd like to make it work, there are a lot of resources available. There's some great YouTube channels, there's some awesome Facebook groups, and you can plug in with a network of people who are also homeschooling, and maybe one's good at history and another one's good at science, and you can work together to homeschool your children. The school districts in Colorado also have homeschool programs. In fact, I mentioned District 38 being one of the top 10 districts in the state, and their homeschool program services about 700 students, which is about 10% of what their student body is. So there are a lot of people who are living in these top school districts who are still choosing to homeschool, because at any given time, your kid is going to be in a classroom, even if they're brilliant, your child's brilliant, they're going to be in a classroom where 30 to 70 or 80% of the kids are at or below their grade level. And what we're finding in these test scores, and one of the articles below links to that, is that students aren't progressing when they're behind. What's happening is the teachers are teaching to a lower common denominator, and the students that are advanced are actually regressing. So that's why so many people are looking at homeschooling, is because if you have a child who is advanced, they don't fall behind with the rest of the class. They can continue to excel and learn at a higher level. The next option you have for schools in Colorado Springs is private school, and I'm not going to get into that. If you're interested in private school, you can reach out to me. I'll tell you the best ones. I can give you some tuition information, and it's an excellent option if you can afford it. If you can't afford it, but you have a child who really belongs in one of these prestigious schools, they do have some scholarships available, and I'd be happy to share some information with you there. If you want a private school video, let me know in the comments section, and I'll work on one. But a lot of people, it's just not an option for them. The third option you have is a charter school. And I mentioned them earlier. Some people think charter schools are places where kids go when they can't perform academically. And in Colorado, that's just not the case. Most of our best schools in Colorado are actually charter schools. And they are tuition-free public schools, and they have a little more autonomy over their curriculum. So they can really pursue academic excellence. Some of them will teach Latin, some will teach Mandarin. And most kids graduating out of these high schools are prepared to go on to that next level of education. They're ready for college. In fact, they get to college and sometimes they're like, oh, this is a lot easier, because they were conditioned for a rigorous workload in their charter school. And I do have a couple of them that stand out. They're head and shoulders above the other schools, and I'll share those with you as well. The fourth best option for you is to put your kids in the absolute best school district you can afford to live in. If you can afford to live in a great school district and you want to be involved in your kids' education on a daily basis, you can help them excel. If you want to live in a district and opt your kids into that better school district, your kids are probably going to do better than most kids in that district anyway. There's a story about the lottery system for schools in Chicago, and this is way back when. But what the study found was that if parents opted their kids into the lottery, even if those kids weren't accepted to go to a better school district, those kids generally did better on their test scores than children who didn't opt into the lottery. So just by virtue of wanting to be in a better school means that your kids are probably going to excel versus a regular student. The fifth option is not for anybody who's still watching this video. If you're into the fifth option, that's just sending your kids to whatever school is closest to your home and hoping for the best. You're not watching this video, most likely. You have so many other options. So if you're living in a failing school district where the school district is on a performance plan because their test scores are so abysmal, you do have other options. So please consider something other than sending your kids to a district where 60, 70, 80% of them are going to fall behind. I'm about to get into the list of the top 10 districts in the Colorado Springs area with a little bit of information about each one. But before I do that, I do want to mention two charter schools specifically, and they're the most likely to prepare your child for university, and that's the Vanguard School and the Classical Academy. They both place a very high value on academics. It's rigorous. There is a lot of homework. There are a lot of projects, and most likely your kids are going to complain about it, but they'll graduate more prepared to go on to the next level of education. These schools send children to Ivy League colleges. They send kids on to advanced degrees that are very technical and specific. And kids that come out of these schools are prepared for that because they've handled that caseload already, and they're not going off to school unprepared. Now, if that doesn't sound like maybe quite your thing, and you do want to choose a charter school because you live in a failing district and you aren't ready to take on that level of homework, then I would encourage you to check out something like a James Irwin Charter School or a Rocky Mountain Class School Academy. Their test scores are better than most of these other school districts. And if you're in that district that I was talking about earlier, Fountain School District 8, where 91% of their 7th graders are below grade level in math, then they're going to be far better off at one of these other charter schools than they would be in public school. And again, just by virtue of you caring about what school they go to, they're going to perform at a higher level than most other students. Here are the top 10 school districts in the Pikes Peak region, according to the Department of Education in the state of Colorado. The first one being School District 12. And I told you to remember that they're the #1 district in the state. 72% of their 3rd graders are reading at or above their level. Reading, writing, English. And that sounds great compared to everybody else. But in 2013, that number was 92%. So this is the best district in the entire state. And they went from 92% proficiency in English for 3rd graders to 72%. So even the best district in the state may not be good enough for your child to excel, because even in the 3rd grade, these kids are starting to fall behind. The second district on the list is District 38. Again, the small district up in Monument. I told you that a lot of those kids are opting into homeschooling because it's just a better fit for them. Academically, they still have 50% of their 7th graders who are operating below their expected grade level for math. So the third best school district in the Pikes Peak region, I already told you, was District 20. It's a big school district. Historically, it's been one of the best districts in the entire state. But in 2022, only 38% of their 7th graders were proficient at math. 62% of kids are below their grade level in math, and that's top 10 in the state. And all these other school districts are below that. It's a little bit better than 2019, but not much. So even before the shutdowns, School District 20 was behind. And I pulled up the number for 2013, and it was 72% proficient in math for 7th graders. 72%. So their math scores have fallen, their proficiency level has fallen about 50%. And again, I can't stress this enough. That's a top 10 district in the state, and only 38% of these kids are proficient in math. Yikes. The rest of this list of school districts is listed as accredited. So they're not top 10, but they're not on performance plans. The next one on the list is Manitou Springs. It is a smaller school district. It's a really kind of a niche area. It's a beautiful place to live. But what we found looking at those scores is that their reading is all right, but their math they're just behind. The next district on the list is Peyton District 23. It's a rural area northeast of Colorado Springs. And looking at their test scores, their reading is all right. Their math is falling behind. And that's kind of the case pretty much everywhere. I think I said earlier that 75% of kids in the 7th grade are below their expected grade level in math. All these districts are kind of falling in line with that. So Peyton is number 5 on the list. Number 6 on the list is Calhan. Again, another rural area. It's actually northeast of Peyton even. There are fewer school choices out there, so pretty much your option is homeschool or public school. There are worse districts than Calhan, but there are better districts. Again, it's top 6 in the area, so if you want to be rural and own some land, that's an option for you. The next one on the list is Woodland Park RE2, and it just made news this week because they've had some changes in their school board. Parents are pretty frustrated with the test scores, and so they've kind of stepped in to try and bring about some changes. Only about 20 to 30% of their students are proficient in math. They're decent at reading, but their math scores are pretty abysmal. So Woodland Park, beautiful place to live. They are trying to make some changes. And there are a lot of these districts that are trying to make some changes because parents are seeing their kids struggle in school and they're tired of it. So they're coming in and trying to bring about some changes. A lot of people are politicizing that. But when you look at these test scores, it's hard to make a case for continuing to stay this course. And Woodland Park is one of those places that's pretty much had enough, and they're trying to make some changes. We'll see how that goes. The 8th one on the list is Kiowa, which is in Elbert, kind of north of Colorado Springs, northeast of Colorado Springs. It's a beautiful area to live, more rural again, and fewer school choices. Kids are struggling in places, again, just like everywhere else. The 9th district on the list is Pueblo County District 70. And if you're living in Pueblo, you probably want your kids to be in District 70 versus District 60, which is more in town. And that includes areas like Pueblo West. But they've made the news for some of the wrong reasons lately. They had an accounting issue going on at one of their middle schools, and it's very hush-hush. Nobody's sure what's happening. There's an investigation ongoing, but they're not blowing the doors off these test scores. But again, it might be the best of a bad choice if you're living in Pueblo. The 10th district is Harrison District 2, which has not ever really been known for being a great school district. It's kind of been one of those places where if you value education, your kids could do all right. But nobody's like, I really want my kids in District 2. And so I was a little surprised to see them on the list, but they're probably doing some things right. And they also benefit from having the Vanguard School as a charter under that district. So Vanguard actually operates under District 2's charter, and they do benefit from those higher test scores because Vanguard is significantly higher than any other school in this area. So just consider that when you're considering District 2. Next on the list are the larger school districts in Colorado Springs, and they are labeled by the state as being accredited with an improvement plan, meaning their test scores are bad enough that somebody in the state goes, we can't have this. And the first one of those is School District 3, and that's Widefield. It's one of the more affordable areas in Colorado Springs, and they don't have any category where more than 50% of their kids are proficient. So at least 50% of the kids are below grade level in every grade in English and math. Widefield School District 3. The next district on our list makes Widefield look decent, and it's Fountain School District 8. It's a military community. These are the men and women that serve our country. Most of them are located at Fort Carson, and Fountain is very convenient to Fort Carson. So they don't have any category where the kids at any grade level in English or math are over 40% proficient, meaning over 60% of kids in that entire district, every grade, every subject, are below their expected grade level. Just think about that. PCS and to Colorado Springs, it's a beautiful place to live, and you got Fountain School District 8. And their superintendent, I think, has been on that job for 8 to 10 years. So I don't know if the board is moving in a direction to place a higher value on education or not. But if you're coming here and you're stationed at Fort Carson, you might want to consider looking at those alternatives to Fountain School District 8. The next one on the list is District 49. It's a big school district. It covers a lot of area. They've talked about splitting it into 2 districts. And I would say if you're coming here and you're going to be stationed at Peterson Air Force Base, there's a pretty good chance that you might be looking at homes in the D49 area, or maybe at Schriever. A lot of those homes are going to be in the District 49 area, and you'll want to dig into the school. Some schools are better than others. Reading scores are better than other school districts, but their math scores are lagging. And so I would highly encourage you to click on the link in the comment section and find out whatever school you're considering to see how your kids might be expected to perform there. The next district on an improvement plan is District 11, and it's a huge school district in terms of area. It's the 3rd largest district by number of students, and really they're not a whole lot better than Fountain District 8. So if your kids are in District 11, just check out the specific schools. But most of that is kind of the center of town, so it's probably not a long distance for you to get to another school or a charter school if that's an option. I haven't heard a whole lot about District 11 making changes. I'm sure that people are trying to make these things better across the board, but the test scores make it hard for me to recommend somebody living in District 11 at this point. The next one on the list is Pueblo District 60. I mentioned it earlier. It's the city part of Pueblo, and there's some rough parts there. Definitely check out the schools, each individual school. You may want to look into charter schools in Pueblo, but District 60 is really struggling. They are building some new schools, so that should help, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in the future with their test scores, if they are pursuing some academic improvements or not. I'm sure they are, but the test scores are pretty depressing. The last district I want to talk about is Cripple Creek, and they are on a priority improvement plan, meaning they're worse than these districts that have 90% of kids failing. And so my recommendation for Cripple Creek is run, don't walk. I would find another district, another school option. There's just not a lot happening in Cripple Creek. There are some casinos up there, and there is a gold mine up there. Other than that, that area is pretty much populated by people who don't want to be around people. If you want to be in a place where you can have land and you don't want to be around anybody else, Cripple Creek's your kind of place. If you want to get off the grid, that's your jam. Maybe you consider homeschooling, but there aren't a lot of choices up that way. So I would just encourage you to look somewhere else. To wrap this video up, I want to say thanks for making it through to the end. I appreciate it more than you can know. If this information was helpful to you, like, comment, subscribe, anything. I appreciate it. I might get a little bit of hate for this video. I'm not pointing fingers. I am just trying to shine a light on the fact that even our best school districts are faltering compared to where they were even 9 years ago. So share this with your friends who are considering making a move, or if they have kids that are about to go into school. I do want things to get better, and I'm encouraging people to pursue options that will help them educate their kids and kind of break this cycle of 60, 70, 90% of children who are falling behind every single year. So, and again, if you have any real estate needs, let me know. This isn't a real estate commercial, but I genuinely care about the people I work with and the people that are coming to this area. I want you to know what's really happening. And thanks for taking the time to watch the video. Have a great day. I appreciate it.